Hello everybody. Last year, that is 2018, was a remarkable year, a different kind of year with regard to bank exams, because especially in the English or the verbal ability section of these exams, it was observed that various new question types or new patterns of questions were introduced. So, when we consider them, we realize though they are not very different from the previously asked questions, we observed a mix and match or a blend of one question type with the other, which created these new combinations. And because most of the candidates were not mentally prepared for this kind of a change, they were taken on the wrong foot, and probably quite a few of them may have tripped and not answered them accurately also. So, in this session today, we will discuss one of those question types which was asked or which was posed by these bank exams last year, and this session will help you give clarity on how to deal with them. For the sake of better understanding and memory of these question types or this particular question type, we have given it a name. What have we called it? We have called it match the clauses. Okay, so this is the question type that I will discuss with you today and help you understand not only how it works but how to work it out. So, as the name suggests, it says match the clause or match the clauses. Because of the word match, we need to have a plural noun there. So, match the clauses. Now, let me first read out the directions for this question type for you, and after that I will help you understand what needs to be done in order to mark the questions or mark the choices accurately. Okay, the directions will pop up on the screen simultaneously as I read out. Please pay attention and be with me. Directions for questions 1 to 5. In this question, 2 columns 1 and 2 and 3 sentences are given, which are divided into 2 parts. Column 1, A, B and C consists of the first half of each sentence, and column 2, D, E and F consists of the second half of each sentence. Match the sentence half in column 1 with a suitable sentence half in column 2, so that the sentences so formed are both meaningful and grammatically correct. Choose the correct option as your answer. Okay, so while the directions are very clear and coherent, let me still simplify them for you so that you understand them absolutely properly. So, what is the demand of this question type? Well, there is a sentence. There are essentially 3 sentences which have been split into parts, and they are put together in 2 columns. Column 1 and column 2. In the first column, the sentence parts that are present are labeled A, B and C, and the second column has the remaining sentence halves which are labeled D, E and F. Now, they may not be in the same order, and you have to pick and choose and form a correct sentence with the 2 halves that work with each other to form that meaningful and grammatically correct sentence. Okay, and you have to look for that choice which reflects this combination of sentence halves, and then mark on that choice as the answer. Okay, so while I'll help you with the working of these questions, this understanding should be there in your head, right? We begin with the first question of this set. Please keep your eyes glued on the screen as the question pops up. Column 1, A says, some organizations in the UK attempt to. B, economists cannot agree on whether the economy is. And C, we all decided in the morning that she was. D, in column 2 now, heading for a recession or depression. E, really heading into another of her bad times by the looks of things. And F, head off criticism by setting up discussion sites. Okay, so how we work out with this question is very important. Now, in order to understand whether one particular sentence half, in this case A, B or C, can be paired with which of D, E and F, we need to match each with all the 3. So, how do we begin? I'll first take the sentence half in A and then match it with D, E and F, and then do the same, repeat the process with the remaining B and C. Fine. So as I read out, please pay attention and understand what whether the sentence that is being read out is correct or not. Some organizations in the UK attempt to heading for a recession or depression. Now attempt to has to be followed by a verb in the simple form and not in the ing form. We attempt to do something and not attempt to doing something. So this clarity should be there in our heads when we try to consider such combinations, or when we try to form a combination. And because heading is in the ing form or the continuous form of a verb, we cannot pair this with the last part of A, that is attempt to, and so we move on to the next part, that is E. Attempt to really heading into another. Now whether it is immediately followed by a verb or whether there is something else and then the verb comes, the rule still remains the same. So we still cannot say some organizations in the UK attempt to really heading into another of her bad times. So there is another thing which is erroneous here. What is there? We are here talking of some organizations in the UK, and the part E has the pronoun, the gender, the female gender pronoun her. So here there is a clash, and we understand this is not a combination that we can work with. So we leave D, we leave E also, and we move on to F. Some organizations in the UK attempt to head off criticism by setting up discussion sites. Now this is an absolutely correct sentence, and the correct combination over here is A and F. Okay. Now similarly we need to work out with B and C also. Let me move on to B. Economists cannot agree on whether the economy is heading for a recession or depression. Well, the very first combination is grammatically correct, and so B can be paired with D. The economy is doing something. What is it doing? It is heading for a recession or a depression. So the grammatical consistency is present in this combination, and the logic also is there. So we can keep B and D as a meaningful combination. Now let's move down to C. We all decided in the morning that she was. Now how was she? She was heading for a recession or depression. Now she was heading for is something which is correct, but can we say a person is heading for a recession or depression? Depression does make sense, but here it is being paired with recession, and we understand recession is not something which is related to a person. Recession is something which is related to an economy. So while the grammatical consistency is there, there is no logic that can be drawn from this combination, and so we dump it and move on to the next part, which is E. We all decided in the morning that she was really heading into another of her bad times by the looks of things. Now this is meaningful because we are talking about a female here, that she was. So in part C, the pronoun she is present, and it can be paired with the pronoun her, and therefore the combination seems to be logical, right? Let me read it out so that we have complete understanding. We all decided in the morning that she was really heading into another of her bad times by the looks of things. Sounds absolutely fine. And why is F not right also? Let me discuss it with you. We all decided in the morning that she was head of criticism. Again, she was doing something and not a simple form of the verb which is needed here. So because there is no progressive verb over here, we cannot work with F. Fine. So what are the correct sentence combinations that we have now arrived at? We have identified A with F, B with D, and C with E. So which of the choices? Now we have the choices on the screen for you. Now you can check and decide which is the correct choice. You can't have just two. All the three have been paired appropriately now after my explanation. So the one choice which reflects all the sentence or combinations correctly is only 3. Okay, so 3 is the answer choice. Other choices don't account for the sentence halves given, so therefore we cannot work with 4. Though 4 has all the 3, the combinations are not correct. So, the only correct answer over here is choice 3. Fine. Now, I hope this elaborate explanation helps us in addressing the problems in the remaining questions more quickly and accurately. Let's move on to the next one. In column 1, we have A, hundreds of thousands of visitors every year. B, traditionally United Nations. C, a group of students from a US university went about studying. Okay, and column D has, column 2 has D, a troop of rhesus monkeys in northern India. E, troop through the museum, and F, troops have been deployed in a peacekeeping role, right? So, now let us look at the combinations. We will start with A, hundreds of thousands of visitors every year. A troop of rhesus monkeys in northern India. Now, there is no grammatical connectivity and consistency. So, we cannot work with A and D. We move down to E. Hundreds of thousands of visitors every year troop through the museum. It's correct because we're talking about what visitors do. So, after visitors every year, we needed a verb which E gives us, and therefore, A and C form a meaningful combination. Well, hundreds of thousands of visitors every year, troops have been deployed in a peacekeeping role is not correct because the word troops here is not a verb, it is a noun, and therefore we cannot work with this part of the sentence half because we need a verb here which is not present in this sentence. So, we keep A and E together to form a meaningful sentence. B says traditionally, United Nations. A troop of rhesus monkeys. Now, United Nations and a troop of rhesus monkeys in northern India has no connection at all. So, it becomes illogical and we cannot work with that. B with E also can't be worked out because we have already paired A with E. Okay. So, the only part left here is F. Traditionally, United Nations troops have been deployed in a peacekeeping role. United Nations troops is a proper noun phrase or a compound noun, and so we understand that there are troops of soldiers that belong to the United Nations and they have been deployed in some part of the world for the sake of peace to be maintained. So, B and F is giving us a logical and complete sentence. Fine. Now, let's move down to C. A group of students from a US university went about studying. Now, what they went about studying should be a noun or a noun phrase. A troop of rhesus monkeys in northern India. A group of students from a US university went about studying a troop of rhesus monkeys in northern India is a complete and grammatically correct, meaningful, logical sentence. And so, we understand C and D together give us a lot of clarity. Now, which is that choice which can account for all these three combinations? One cannot because it says B and D and the other two are missing. 3 cannot because though it has all the 3, the pairing is not correctly matched. We have A with D, B and C and F which we have already ruled out. So, we cannot work with 3. 4 has just 2 of the choices and 5 has only 1. So, this leaves us with choice 2 where we anyway have worked out the order. What is the order? The order is A, E, B, F and C, D, and you can see this choice is being highlighted on the screen for you so that it becomes more prominent for you and you understand the pairing properly. Fine. Now, the third question as I read out for you is column 1A. In some new markets, it may take time to build up. B. People of this type are considered to C. When buying online customers. Okay. In column 2, D reads as be trustworthy and attentive to their duties and obligations. E. A trusting relationship. F. Must trust that their payment details will be safeguarded. Okay. So, the focus here in the column, in the parts given in column 2, revolves around a play of the word trust. In its various usages, trust has been used, and we need to consider those parts to precede that which give us a completely correct grammatical sentence. Okay, let's begin with A. In some new markets, it may take time to build up. Be trustworthy is not correct, because in some new markets it may take time to build up something. And what is that something? Something should be either a noun or a noun phrase, and be trustworthy and attentive are a combination of adjectives which do not connect with this, and if connected the sentence goes awry. So A with D is not correct. A with E, well, it says it may take time to build up a trusting relationship. So we have a trusting relationship as a noun phrase which perfectly brings out the meaning that the part A has tried to convey, and therefore in combination they are a meaningful pair. Fine. So we have A and E together. Let's move on to the second one now, part B. People of this type are considered to. And because it says people of this type, it definitely has to be followed by adjectives to describe people. Now I read out that part with you where adjectives were present. Which was that part? That part was D. The words trustworthy and attentive are adjectives, and they are good enough words to describe people. People of this type are considered to be trustworthy and attentive to their duties and obligations. So B and D are also forming a correct sentence combination. Let's consider C now. When buying online, customers must trust that their payment details will be safeguarded. So customers must do something. So it should be followed by a verb. D is not correct because it has adjectives, and E is not correct because it has a noun phrase. The only part or the only half of the sentence that remains is F, and C and F are giving us together a meaningful combination. So which is the choice which accounts for this combination or this pairing? Well, none of 1, 2, 3, 4 achieve that, and the only choice which does reflect this pairing of these pairings is option 5. So again, the fifth choice on the screen is highlighted for you. Please take a look. A, E, B, D and C, F are all present in that choice. So the answer is choice 5 for this question. I hope this explanation and this discussion is giving you the confidence that this question type will not be difficult for you to solve in case you encounter it in the exam. Okay, so I hope I'm giving you the confidence that you need. Please move on to the next question. In the column 1, we have A, which says many African American mothers can turn to the police. B says employers trust employees. C, one risk is that people will. Column 2 has parts D, E and F. D says and is run by a board of trustees. E says if their children are in trouble, and F says alternatives to modern technologies. So let us now consider which of these will together form a meaningful sentence. Well, A has many African American mothers can turn to the police. Now, so we turn to somebody for something, or we turn to somebody in the possibility of something happening. So either of these things has to be kept in mind and then worked upon. Many African American mothers can turn to the police and is run by a board of trustees is not right, because neither African American mothers is singular and nor is police a singular noun, and in D is a singular verb auxiliary which does not match with either of the verbs given. So we cannot work with A and D as a correct combination. We need to move down to E now. Can turn to the police if their children are in trouble. Now, doesn't this complete the idea? We are talking of mothers, we are talking of children, and children in trouble would definitely need mothers to turn to the police. So, A together with E is a meaningful and grammatically correct sentence. B says employers trust employees and is run by a board of trustees. Now, employers and employees both are plural in form, and therefore is run by a board of trustees is neither grammatically consistent nor logical. Okay. If their children are in trouble, now employers and employees with children in being in trouble does not have any does not give us any clarity. In fact, it sounds absurd. And with F, employees trust employers, alternatives to modern technologies also has no clarity. So we cannot work with we cannot form any sequence using B with any of the parts D, E or M. So this is not possible. Now let us look at C. One risk is that people will, and is run. Now people will do something, isn't it? So we cannot have and is run by, and therefore of course here again there is a clash. People, which is plural, is a singular verb auxiliary. So this combination is not possible. People will, if their children, again there is, though people is plural and there is plural, there is again no clarity, no logic in saying one risk is that people will if their children are in trouble. So there seems to be something missing in between, and C with E also is not correct. One risk is that people will, alternatives to modern technologies. Now this also does not make any sense at all. So we understand all in all A and E is the only meaningful combination that we can get out of these sentence halves that have been given to us. And in which choice is this to be seen? We have A and C in choice 1. The very first choice gives us this pairing, and therefore we mark on choice 1 as the answer, and then I move down to the last question of this session. Okay, ready? Fifth one, column 1. A, the translation of votes into. B, young people enjoy using the internet to transgress boundaries. C, some countries are more successful. Okay. In column 2, we have D, which reads as in translating economic success into better lives for people. E largely depends on the transit time, and F says that are perhaps better policed in the offline world. Now let us look at each of these halves A, B and C and try to pair them with any of D, E and F. So looking at A, the translation of votes into. So votes into something that should be meaningful enough to complete the thought. Now the translation of votes into in translating economic success, well, because the preposition into is already present, a preposition can always be followed by either a noun phrase or a pronoun. And in part D, or in that sentence half which is labeled D, there is no such thing given, and what it starts with is also another preposition almost of the same kind. So here we don't have any consistency or continuity of the idea. In fact, it spoils the logic and the grammar of the sentence. So A and D cannot be worked out. Let's look at A and E. The translation of votes into largely depends on the transit time. Now the translation of votes into what? As I said, a pronoun, a noun phrase or a noun needs to have been mentioned here, which is not given. So in the absence of anything that is suitable or appropriate enough to help this part connect with the other part, we cannot go and pair them. Okay, A and E again is an impossible pair. The translation of votes into that are perhaps better policed in the offline world. So here there is neither consistency in grammatical terms nor in terms of idea flow. So there is no relationship between the translation of votes. We were talking about votes on one side, and here it says better policed in the offline world. So there seems to be a clash. These two are at variance with each other. So A cannot be completed with any of the parts D, E and F given, which makes us move down to the second part, that is B. Young people enjoy using the internet to transgress boundaries in translating economic success into better lives for people. Now transgress boundaries in translating again is non-grammatical. Okay, we look at E. To transgress boundaries largely depends on. Now again, there is nothing to fix both of these together as to form a complete meaningful idea, and so B cannot be paired with E. Young people enjoy using the internet to transgress boundaries that are perhaps better policed in the offline world. The idea is that young people are misusing the internet and they are doing those things online which they would not be able to, or they would not have done offline. So this is a meaningful and completely correct, grammatically correct sentence. So B and F is a correct combination. Okay. Some countries are more successful than others. So we are talking about a comparison because it says more successful than others. Now they are more successful than others in what should help us complete the idea, and in which part does it has it been given? In part D. Some countries are more successful than others in translating economic success into better lives for people. So this is a complete thought, and C with D is quite meaningful. Fine. So we understood A could not be paired with any of D, E and F. B was successfully paired with, we successfully paired B with F and C with D. Has a set of pairs? Well, it is option 3 which has C and F and B and D. I'm sorry, which has B and F and C and D. So we mark on option 3 as the answer. On the screen, this option has been highlighted for you. Please take a look again. And this also brings us to the end of this session on match the clauses. I hope you got some clarity on how to address this problem presented by the change that this question type presented. For more clarity and greater understanding of new question types that keep appearing in bank exams, please subscribe to our website www.timeforeducation.com. Thank you.